The colony of Ardent 7 was a small but proud human settlement on the edge of explored space. Its silver domes glinted under the light of a distant sun, and the hum of energy generators echoed quietly through the tunnels below the surface. Humans had lived here for decades, adapting to the harsh environment with patience, intelligence, and unwavering determination. Life was never easy, but the settlers had learned to survive and even thrive far from Earth. It was during one peaceful morning, as children played in the thin gravity fields and engineers tended to their solar farms, that the sky itself seemed to change. At first it was only a flicker, a streak of brightness far beyond the horizon. But then the streak grew larger, spreading across the black expanse of space like an enormous shadow. The ground shook slightly as the first Alpha ship emerged from the void, its metal hull reflecting the stars like a dark mirror. The Alpha fleet was unlike anything humans had ever seen. Towering triangular ships hovered silently above the colony, each one bristling with weaponry and shimmering energy shields. Their design was elegant but menacing, a clear signal that whoever controlled these ships dominated their enemies completely. And the beings inside, the Alphas themselves, were even more imposing. Standing over 3 meters tall, their muscular bodies were covered in metallic armor engraved with symbols that seemed to glow faintly. Their eyes shone with intelligence and arrogance, a look that clearly said, "We are the rulers of this galaxy." "You are nothing." Colonel Marcus Hale, commander of the Ardent 7 Defense Force, felt a chill despite the warm artificial air. He had read reports of the Alphas from distant human colonies, but nothing prepared him for seeing them in person. He could hear the voices of his officers in the command room, a mixture of fear and disbelief. "Sir, what do we do?" Lieutenant Kara Lee asked, her fingers trembling as she tapped on the holographic display. Marcus took a deep breath and clenched his jaw. "We observe first. We survive. Then we plan. Panic does nothing." The Alphas broadcasted a message in a language that no human had ever heard. It resonated not through sound, but directly into the minds of those who listened. It was clear, powerful, and chilling. "Humans, your time is over. You are weak. You are primitive. We are Alpha. You will obey or perish." The message left no room for negotiation. The Alphas had conquered worlds before. Resistance meant death. And yet, even in the face of such terrifying power, Marcus noticed something curious. The Alpha's message was arrogant, almost careless. They assumed that humans would break under fear, as every other species had. That assumption, he realized, could be their first mistake. Across the colony, civilians and soldiers alike stared up at the hovering ships. Some wept quietly. Others clenched their fists, refusing to bow. Young engineer Lena Torres felt her heart race, not with fear, but with determination. "We can't run," she whispered to herself. "We survive, we fight. That's what humans do." Over the next few hours, the Alphas made their presence known. Scout drones zipped through the colony, scanning structures, analyzing humans' movements, and cataloging resources. They moved with precision, their technology far beyond anything the humans had developed. But the settlers noticed cracks, small but important. The drones reacted slowly to unpredictable human movements. Their scanning systems were powerful, yet their programming lacked creativity. They could predict patterns but not chaos. Colonel Marcus noticed this while observing the drones from the command center. "They rely on control," he said. "If we do something unexpected, we can slip past them. We have to be smart, not strong." Meanwhile, in the human residential sectors, families were gathering. Children were kept away from the windows, and parents whispered stories of courage from Earth's history. Tales of explorers, scientists, and soldiers who had overcome impossible odds. The Alphas assumed humans were fragile, but the settlers were already preparing mentally to survive. Fear was present, yes, but it did not dominate. Humans had a stubborn spark that the Alphas could not yet understand. Outside the first skirmish occurred. A small Alpha patrol descended near a farming dome, expecting to intimidate the colonists. They were met with barricades, loud alarms, and a small but brave human defense team. The soldiers were armed with plasma rifles far less advanced than Alpha energy cannons, yet they used the environment cleverly. Sand traps slowed the patrol vehicles. Smoke screens confused the drones. The humans' creativity surprised even Marcus. Back in the command room, the human leadership was buzzing with activity. Scientists were studying the Alpha transmissions. Engineers were modifying weapons and defenses, and military strategists were drafting plans for what seemed impossible. Lena worked late into the night, her hands moving rapidly across the holographic console. She analyzed Alpha drone flight patterns and noted small delays between commands. It was not much, but it was enough to exploit. As night fell over Ardent 7, the sky was lit by the eerie glow of the Alpha ships. From above, the aliens observed a species they assumed was inferior, a species that would bend and obey. And yet, as humans whispered among themselves, shared ideas and prepared defenses, they were already planting the seeds of resistance. Colonel Marcus walked through the corridors, speaking to soldiers and civilians alike. "They think they are unstoppable," he said quietly. "But we have something they don't. We have imagination. We have courage. We have each other, and that can make all the difference." The first night of the Alpha occupation was tense. Drones patrolled the perimeter. Energy shields hummed with power, and humans stayed vigilant. Yet in every bunker, every dome, and every laboratory, there was also a quiet determination, a refusal to submit. By the next morning, the Alphas realized that humans were not responding as expected. There were no mass surrenders, no panic-driven riots. Instead, humans were already experimenting with ways to disable drone sensors, build improvised weapons, and communicate secretly across the colony. The arrogance of the Alphas blinded them to the fact that these humans were learning, adapting and preparing for a fight unlike any other. In a secluded observation deck, Lena and a small team of engineers watched a patrol drone circle above the colony. "Look at that," she said, pointing at the subtle lag in its movements. "It's slow to respond to unpredictable changes. If we can force it into mistakes, we can gain an advantage." Colonel Marcus entered, nodding approvingly. "Exactly. That's the kind of thinking that keeps humans alive. Creativity and courage. That's why we are different." The Alphas, meanwhile, continued to broadcast messages of intimidation, showing images of conquered worlds and enslaved species. They believed fear would break the humans quickly, but the humans did not flinch. Children practiced drills, scientists designed traps, and soldiers ran simulations. Every day they learned more about their invaders. Every day they grew stronger, not in raw power but in knowledge and strategy. By the end of Part 1, the stage was set. The Alphas were mighty, arrogant, and certain of their dominance. The humans were smaller, weaker in conventional terms, but unyielding. They were observant, resourceful, and determined to survive at all costs. And somewhere in the shadows of Ardent 7, a quiet truth emerged. This species, underestimated by the galaxy's self-proclaimed rulers, was not ready to surrender. The first part closes with a human scout reporting a minor success. A drone had been temporarily disabled using an improvised EMP device. It was a small victory, but it ignited hope throughout the colony. Marcus looked at the glowing console and whispered, "They think they are Alpha. They don't know humans yet." And with that, the battle for humanity's place in the galaxy began, not with brute force, but with courage, ingenuity, and the spark that no alien could ever erase. The sun rose over Ardent 7, painting the domes and towers of the colony in shades of gold and orange. The humans were ready. Every soldier, engineer, and civilian knew that the Alphas would strike soon. Intelligence reports from scout drones indicated movement in the Alpha fleet, signaling an impending attack. Colonel Marcus Hale stood at the command center, studying the holographic map of the colony and its surroundings. "They think they can crush us with force," he said to Lieutenant Kara Lee. "They underestimate humans, and that will be their mistake." Kara nodded. "We've reinforced the outer perimeters, set traps, and our scouts are watching the skies. We know their patrol routes now. It's not much, but it's a start." In the human barracks, soldiers checked their weapons and equipment. Plasma rifles were carefully calibrated, energy shields were tested, and communication lines were double-checked. But strength alone was not enough. What humans had in their favor was unpredictability, creativity, and the ability to adapt quickly. Marcus had spent weeks training his troops to use terrain, weather, and strategy to their advantage, things the Alphas could not calculate easily. At the same time, engineers and scientists worked feverishly in the laboratories. Lena Torres led a team designing new defensive systems. Improvised EMP devices, reflective decoys, and signal jammers were created using salvaged Alpha technology and human ingenuity. Even children contributed, helping to camouflage energy sources and practice warning drills. Every human on Ardent 7 had a role, no matter how small. The first Alpha attack came just before midday. A squadron of Alpha patrol ships descended from orbit, aiming to secure the main colony hub. Their ships hovered silently above the domes, their energy weapons glowing ominously. The Alphas intended to intimidate the humans, expecting quick surrender. Instead, the humans launched their first line of defense. Smoke generators filled the streets with thick, obscuring clouds. Sand traps and energy barriers forced the Alpha scouts to slow down. Soldiers fired carefully aimed plasma bursts not to destroy, but to disorient the drones. Lena's EMP devices shorted out sensors, sending one patrol ship spinning out of control. The Alphas were shocked. Their systems had been designed to anticipate any movement, any reaction, but humans were unpredictable. They adapted instantly, improvising new tactics in real time. It was something no algorithm, no matter how advanced, could calculate. On the ground, the battle was tense but controlled. Humans did not have the raw power to win through force. Instead, they used traps, distractions, and coordinated attacks to create chaos among the Alpha patrol. Soldiers worked in pairs, guiding drones into ambushes, while engineers remotely hacked into the patrol ship's systems, even briefly taking control of their navigation. Colonel Marcus watched from the command center, a mixture of pride and concern on his face. "Every victory is small, but each one teaches us more," he said. "We must be patient and clever. We fight with our minds, not just our weapons." Meanwhile, civilians were not idle. Food domes were reinforced, communication lines were hidden, and secret escape tunnels were prepared in case of a breakthrough. Children were taught to recognize the drones' patterns and help signal soldiers when danger approached. The entire colony was united, everyone contributing to the fight. After hours of careful maneuvers, the humans scored a significant success. A group of Alpha patrol ships, lured into a canyon by false signals, were trapped in a magnetic field generated by Lena's team. The ship's engines sputtered and failed, leaving them stranded and vulnerable. Human soldiers moved in, not to destroy, but to study and gather technology. Every piece of Alpha equipment was analyzed, every pattern observed. The Alphas, meanwhile, were growing frustrated. Their confidence was shaken. They had faced resistance before, but never like this. Every human action was unexpected. Every move challenged their calculations. They had assumed superiority through strength and advanced technology. But humans had something they could not predict: ingenuity. Colonel Marcus addressed his team as the first wave of Alpha ships retreated. "They think this is over," he said. "But it's only the beginning. We've seen their weaknesses. We've learned their habits. And we will use that knowledge to protect our home." In the Alpha fleet, commanders conferred. Their data suggested that humans were learning faster than anticipated. Their reliance on algorithms and control had left them unprepared for a species that could think outside of predictable patterns. Doubt crept into their minds, a dangerous emotion for beings accustomed to absolute dominance. Back on Ardent 7, the humans continued their preparations. They studied every aspect of the Alpha attack: flight paths, energy frequencies, and even behavioral cues. Scouts reported minor victories across the colony: drones disabled, weapons malfunctioning, patrols delayed. Each success, no matter how small, strengthened morale. Lena Torres, exhausted but determined, explained her plan to Marcus. "If we can force them into predictable traps, we can disable larger ships in the fleet. They rely on coordination and communication. If we disrupt that, we can level the playing field." Marcus nodded. "Good. That's exactly what we need. Not strength. Not brute force. Smart tactics, patience, and coordination. That is how humans win." The next phase of the clash began at night. Using the cover of darkness and the limited visibility of the alien drones, humans executed ambushes along supply routes. Improvised decoys lured patrols into preset traps. Energy bursts and hacking devices disabled communications temporarily, leaving Alpha units confused. Every move was calculated, every risk measured. Despite the danger, the humans never lost hope. Children who had once watched the sky in fear now helped by signaling patrol movements from hidden vantage points. Scientists and engineers worked side by side with soldiers, ensuring that every plan had maximum efficiency. The Alpha's assumption, that humans would panic and flee, was proving entirely false. During the first major clash, an Alpha commander personally descended in an attack craft to assess the situation. Towering over human soldiers, it radiated authority and menace. But the humans remained calm. Using the terrain, smoke, and carefully timed EMP bursts, they managed to force the craft into a canyon where its systems were disabled. The commander had no choice but to retreat, his pride wounded and his strategy questioned. Colonel Marcus addressed the colony after the clash. "Today we fought not just to survive," he said, his voice echoing over loudspeakers, "but to show that humans will not bow to fear. We are clever, adaptable, and united. This is our home, and we will defend it with every resource we have. The Alphas may be strong, but they do not understand humans yet." The first clash ended with the humans holding their ground. They had lost a few structures and suffered minor casualties, but their spirit remained unbroken. More importantly, they had learned the weaknesses of their opponent, the reliance on control, predictability, and arrogance. For the Alphas, the experience was confusing and humiliating. They had expected obedience, fear, and quick victory. Instead, they encountered resistance, ingenuity, and courage. Their belief in absolute dominance was shaken, and their commanders began to question how to proceed. That night, humans celebrated quietly, not with loud parties or reckless joy, but with quiet acknowledgement of what they had accomplished. Families huddled together, sharing stories of bravery from the day. Soldiers cleaned their weapons and repaired shields. Engineers tinkered with new devices, and children imagined what the next day might bring. Lena Torres stood on a ridge overlooking the colony, gazing at the retreating Alpha ships. Her heart swelled with determination. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. "They think they are unbeatable. They don't know humans yet, and one day they will see what we can do." Colonel Marcus joined her, nodding. "Exactly. Today we survived. Tomorrow we learn. And after that, we fight back." The first clash had taught both sides a vital lesson. For the Alphas, it was a lesson in humility. They had underestimated humans. For humans, it was a lesson in courage, creativity, and the power of unity. The battle had been won not with brute strength, but with intelligence, planning, and the indomitable human spirit. As the night deepened, Ardent 7 remained vigilant. Watchtowers scanned the skies, engineers refined defensive systems, and soldiers patrolled the perimeters. Every human understood that the Alphas would return, stronger and angrier. But they also understood something even more important: that humans, underestimated and small in size, could challenge the mightiest species in the galaxy if they used their minds, courage, and unity. And somewhere above the colony, the Alpha fleet lingered, its commanders uneasy and its confidence shaken. They had thought this would be an easy conquest, but the humans had proven otherwise. The stage was set for a larger conflict, one where cunning, adaptability, and human spirit would play a far greater role than any weapon of war. The story of the first clash ended with a quiet but powerful truth. Humans were not prey. They were survivors. They were thinkers. And they were ready to defend their home no matter what the Alphas threw at them next. The sky over Ardent 7 was no longer just a place of fear. It had become a battlefield of strategy and wits. After the first clash, humans had learned much about the Alphas. Every patrol, every drone, every attack pattern had been studied and recorded. What once seemed like a hopeless fight was now a challenge that humans were ready to meet with intelligence and courage. Colonel Marcus Hale convened a meeting in the command center, the room humming with activity. Engineers, scientists, soldiers, and even a few civilians who had specialized skills crowded around holographic displays, showing the positions of Alpha ships and their patrol routes. "We've learned a lot from their attacks," Marcus began, pointing at the holographic fleet. "They rely on strict coordination, predictable patterns, and overconfidence. If we exploit these weaknesses, we can take the fight to them." Lena Torres stepped forward, excitement in her eyes. "We can use their own technology against them. Their ships depend on centralized command. If we disrupt it, even temporarily, the rest of the fleet will be confused. We can disable their weapons and shields without direct confrontation." The room buzzed with energy. For the first time, humans felt they were not just defending, they were preparing to strike back. Soldiers trained tirelessly, learning to coordinate with engineers and scouts. Every day brought new tactics, using decoy drones to mislead Alpha patrols, creating magnetic traps to disable engines, and experimenting with stealth maneuvers that the Alphas had never seen before. Outside the command center, The colony was alive with activity. Civilians helped build camouflage for energy generators, designed warning systems, and reinforced buildings to withstand strikes. Even children contributed, learning to recognize subtle changes in the sky that signaled approaching ships. Every person had a role, and every role mattered. Weeks of preparation led to the first coordinated counterattack. Humans targeted a small Alpha supply convoy that had been supporting patrol ships. Using a combination of stealth ships, EMP bursts, and magnetic traps, they managed to disable multiple vessels without sustaining heavy damage. The convoy was forced to retreat, leaving valuable technology behind. Colonel Marcus watched the results on the holographic display. "This is proof," he said. "We are learning faster than they expect. We are turning their strengths into weaknesses." The Alpha fleet, meanwhile, was growing increasingly frustrated. They had faced resistance before, but never from a species so unpredictable. Their drones were disabled, patrols disrupted, and supply lines threatened. The arrogance that had guided their conquests across the galaxy was now a liability. One evening, Lena and her team discovered something critical. While analyzing a captured Alpha drone, they found that the fleet relied heavily on a central communication network. If that network was disrupted, even temporarily, their ships could not coordinate effectively. Marcus smiled as he studied the findings. "This changes everything," he said. "We don't have to beat them in direct combat. We need to outsmart them. We can turn their own systems against them." With this new knowledge, humans began planning a larger operation. It was risky, but the potential reward was immense. Using stolen Alpha technology, they created a device that could send false commands through the communication network. The goal was simple: confuse the fleet, create chaos, and gain control of the battlefield. As the day of the operation approached, the tension in Ardent 7 was palpable. Soldiers checked weapons for the last time. Engineers tested the devices repeatedly, and scouts confirmed patrol patterns. Every detail mattered. Failure could be catastrophic, but success could shift the balance of power. The operation began at dawn. A small squad of human stealth ships approached the Alpha fleet undetected, guided by Lena's precise calculations. At the same time, ground teams activated decoys and EMP devices to distract patrols. The moment of truth arrived as the central device was activated, sending false commands through the Alpha communication network. Immediately, confusion erupted. Ships changed course unexpectedly. Weapon systems malfunctioned, and drones collided with each other. The Alphas, accustomed to perfect coordination, were thrown into chaos. Human ships struck quickly, disabling key vessels while avoiding direct confrontation. The plan was working perfectly. On the ground, the people of Ardent 7 watched in awe as the skies filled with lights and movement. For the first time, humans were not just defending, they were taking control. Soldiers moved to intercept any Alpha ships that attempted to retreat, while engineers remotely disabled energy shields. Every move was precise, every action coordinated. Colonel Marcus observed the battle from the command center, his eyes scanning the holographic map. "Keep going," he ordered. "Focus on their weak points. Don't waste energy on what we can't take. Use their own confusion against them." Lena's team worked tirelessly to maintain the disruption. "We can hold this for a few minutes," she said, "long enough for our forces to gain the advantage. After that, we need to retreat strategically if necessary." The first major strike was a success. Several Alpha ships were disabled, and the remainder retreated in disarray. The humans had turned what seemed like an impossible fight into a clear victory, not by brute force, but by intelligence, strategy, and courage. The aftermath was remarkable. Humans collected valuable Alpha technology and studied it for future operations. Engineers found ways to improve their own ships and defenses, while soldiers trained in new tactics inspired by what they had learned from the enemy. Morale across the colony was higher than ever. They had proven that humans, underestimated and small, could challenge the mightiest forces in the galaxy. Even civilians played a role in the victory. Families helped transport supplies, maintain communication lines, and care for the wounded. Children practiced drills and helped signal approaching ships. The entire colony was united, and that unity became the real weapon against the Alphas. The Alphas, in their retreat, realized the humans were not just clever, they were learning. Every encounter made the humans more prepared, more resilient, and more dangerous. Their arrogance, their belief in absolute superiority was being challenged. The galaxy's so-called alpha species had met a species they could not control. Colonel Marcus addressed the colony after the battle. "Today we showed them that humans are not easily defeated," he said. "We are adaptable, intelligent, and united. This victory is not the end of the fight, but it proves something important. We are capable of standing against anyone, no matter how powerful." Lena Torres added, "We've learned a vital lesson. The Alphas can be outsmarted. Their strength is in their technology, but their weakness is their predictability. If we continue to use our brains, work together, and stay brave, we can turn the tide completely." The humans began preparing for the next phase of the war. They repaired damaged ships, upgraded defenses, and trained new recruits. Scouts were sent further into space to monitor the Alpha fleet, ensuring that no surprise attack could catch them off guard. In the weeks that followed, small victories continued. Humans disabled supply lines, intercepted patrols, and gathered intelligence on Alpha weaknesses. Each success was celebrated quietly but proudly. The humans had begun to shift the balance of power, not through overwhelming force but through ingenuity, courage, and unity. The story of the turning tide was not just about battles. It was about spirit. Humans, underestimated by the galaxy, were showing that strength alone did not determine victory. Intelligence, adaptability, and the courage to face the impossible were just as powerful as the mightiest weapons. By the end of Part 3, the Alphas were no longer entirely confident. They had encountered resistance unlike anything they had expected. Humans had proven they could fight, learn, and grow stronger with every encounter. The stage was set for even greater confrontations, where human courage and creativity would be tested like never before. Colonel Marcus stood on a ridge overlooking the colony, watching the horizon where the Alpha ships had retreated. He felt a mixture of pride and determination. "They thought they were unstoppable," he said quietly, "but they don't understand humans yet. And they never will if we keep fighting smart and together." Lena Torres joined him, holding a small device that had just been modified for future operations. "We've taken the first step," she said. "The tide is turning, and it's only the beginning. They claim to be Alpha, but humans are proving otherwise." As night fell, the colony of Ardent 7 glowed with lights of life, activity, and hope. Humans celebrated quietly, not with noise, but with a deep sense of achievement. They had learned, adapted, and struck back. They had shown the galaxy that humans, small and underestimated, could rise to meet any challenge. The Alphas would return, stronger and angrier, but humans were ready. They had turned the tide, and the story of humanity's resilience and ingenuity had only just begun. The Alphas had underestimated humans from the very beginning. They believed fear would break them, force would crush them, and technology would dominate. But humans had learned, adapted, and grown stronger with every encounter. By now, the colony of Ardent 7 was no longer on the defensive. They were ready to strike. Colonel Marcus Hale stood in the command center, eyes focused on the holographic map of the Alpha fleet. "This is it," he said to Lieutenant Kara Lee. "The moment we've been preparing for. Today we take the fight to them." Lena Torres and her team had completed the final modifications to the central disruption device. It was small enough to be transported by stealth ships, but powerful enough to confuse the Alpha fleet's communication network. "We've timed it perfectly," Lena said. "If we deploy it now, their ships won't know who to follow, who to obey. Their coordination will collapse, even if only for a few minutes." The plan was daring. A small strike team would pilot stealth ships to the heart of the Alpha fleet, placing the device in a position where its signal would reach every command ship. Ground forces would coordinate attacks on any patrols or supply lines that tried to interfere. Every human on Ardent 7 had a role, and every role was crucial. As the stealth ships left the colony under cover of darkness, civilians and soldiers alike held their breath. For the first time, humans were not simply surviving, they were going on the offensive. The skill, courage, and ingenuity of the entire colony were about to be tested. The fleet approached the Alpha stronghold carefully. Lena's device was activated remotely, sending carefully crafted false commands through the enemy network. Almost immediately, chaos erupted. Alpha ships moved in unexpected directions. Weapon systems malfunctioned, and drones collided mid-air. The Alphas, accustomed to flawless coordination, were caught off guard. Human stealth ships exploited the confusion, disabling key vessels without engaging in direct combat. Magnetic traps disrupted engine systems. EMP pulses temporarily shut down shields, and precision strikes created havoc among the enemy ranks. Every move was carefully calculated, every risk measured. On the ground, the people of Ardent 7 watched the skies in awe. Lights flashed as Alpha ships faltered, and for the first time humans could see the result of their ingenuity and preparation. Soldiers intercepted retreating ships, engineers maintained the disruption device, and civilians provided real-time intelligence, signaling movements and identifying targets. Colonel Marcus monitored the operation from the command center. "Focus on their weak points," he ordered. "Strike fast, retreat when necessary. Keep them off balance. This is our chance to prove we are not just survivors, we are fighters." The strike lasted hours, but humans maintained precision and coordination. Key Alpha ships were disabled, critical systems were disrupted, and the fleet's command structure was left in disarray. For the first time, the Alphas realized that humans were not just clever, they were a threat. Amid the chaos, a daring Alpha commander attempted to regroup forces, descending personally in an attack craft. But humans anticipated the move. Using terrain, decoys, and EMP devices, they forced the craft into a canyon where it was rendered immobile. The commander was forced to retreat, shaken and humiliated. By the end of the operation, humans had achieved something extraordinary. They had struck at the heart of the Alpha fleet and emerged victorious, not through raw power but through intelligence, courage, and creativity. Ardent 7 had proven that even a small colony could challenge the mightiest species in the galaxy. Celebration was subdued but heartfelt. Engineers analyzed the captured Alpha technology, soldiers trained with new tactics, and civilians reinforced defenses in preparation for any counterattack. The entire colony was united, stronger than ever. Colonel Marcus addressed the colony over the public speakers. "Today we showed the Alphas that humans are not easily defeated. Our strength lies not just in weapons but in our minds, our courage, and our unity. We've turned the tables, and this is only the beginning." Lena Torres added, "They thought they were Alpha, but humans have something they don't. Imagination, creativity, and the ability to adapt. They will remember this day, and so will we." The night fell over Ardent 7, and the colony glowed with quiet pride. Humans had not only survived, they had struck, outsmarted, and emerged victorious. The Alphas would return, but the humans were ready. They had proven that courage, ingenuity, and unity could overcome even the greatest odds. The Alphas had fled, their fleet fractured and disorganized. The galaxy's so-called supreme species had learned a lesson they would never forget. Humans were not weak, not obedient, and not predictable. They were survivors, thinkers, and fighters, and now humans had the momentum. Colonel Marcus Hale walked through the colony, observing the aftermath. Soldiers repaired vehicles, engineers studied Alpha technology, and civilians cleaned and reinforced the city. Everywhere he looked, he saw determination, resilience, and pride. Humanity had endured, adapted, and overcome. Lena Torres and her team were already planning the next steps. Captured Alpha technology offered incredible insights. Energy shields could be improved, engines could be enhanced, and communication systems could be strengthened. Humans were no longer just defending. They were learning to dominate the battlefield themselves. The story of the humans' first offensive operation spread quickly. Neighboring colonies received the news and joined the coalition. Humans shared tactics, technology, and strategies. For the first time, the galaxy saw humans not as fragile settlers, but as a species capable of challenging the most advanced civilizations. Meanwhile, the remaining Alpha forces were regrouping, but they were cautious. They had encountered resistance, ingenuity, and unity unlike anything they had faced before. Fear, hesitation, and doubt crept into their ranks, a dangerous emotion for beings who had always assumed absolute dominance. On Ardent 7, Marcus addressed the colony. "The Alphas may return, but we are ready. We are no longer a small, defenseless colony. We are a united people, clever, courageous, and unstoppable when we work together. Our victory today is proof that humans can achieve greatness against any odds." Civilians, soldiers, engineers, and children celebrated in their own ways. Not with loud parties, but with quiet pride and determination. Families shared stories of bravery. Engineers discussed future improvements, and soldiers trained with renewed energy. Every person understood the role they played in humanity's triumph. The next weeks were filled with preparation and innovation. Humans improved their ships, refined their defensive systems, and studied Alpha technology to anticipate future attacks. Scout teams ventured further into space to track Alpha movements. Knowledge, strategy, and teamwork became the true weapons of humanity. When the Alphas returned, expecting easy conquest, they were met with a force they could not control. Humans had anticipated their moves, exploited weaknesses, and coordinated attacks across multiple fronts. Every Alpha ship that approached was met with strategy, cunning, and courage. The climactic confrontation was decisive. Human forces, guided by intelligence and teamwork, dismantled the remaining Alpha command ships. The fleet's organization collapsed, and the Alphas were forced to retreat permanently. Their claim to supremacy had been erased, not by sheer firepower but by human creativity, courage, and unity. Colonel Marcus addressed the coalition after the final victory. Today, humanity has proven its place in the galaxy, not through fear or domination but through intelligence, courage, and unity. We have defended our home, defeated a superior enemy, and inspired civilizations across the stars. Lena Torres added, "We have shown that humans are a force to be reckoned with. Our strength is not just in weapons, but in our minds, hearts, and our willingness to stand together against any challenge." The galaxy slowly recognized the new truth. Humans were no longer just survivors, they were leaders, innovators, and protectors. Colonies once thought vulnerable became strongholds of strategy, courage, and ingenuity. Allies from other species joined humanity, inspired by the example of Ardent 7. As peace returned, humans focused on rebuilding and advancing. Technology captured from the Alphas accelerated progress, enabling faster ships, stronger defenses, and advanced research. Colonies collaborated across star systems, sharing knowledge and innovation. Humanity was stronger, wiser, and ready for the challenges ahead. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the Alphas reflected on their defeat. They had underestimated humans' ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. They had assumed strength alone could ensure victory, but they learned that humans were different, unpredictable, intelligent, and unstoppable when united. On Ardent 7, the colony that had started as small and vulnerable now stood as a symbol of human potential. Children played in the domes, soldiers trained for future defense, and engineers worked tirelessly to advance knowledge. Humanity had defended itself and secured a future among the stars. Colonel Marcus looked out at the horizon, the stars shining brightly. "We have survived, we have learned, and we have triumphed. This is the true power of humanity. We may be small, but we are capable of greatness beyond measure." Lena Torres stood beside him, holding a small device that had once been Alpha technology. "And this is just the beginning," she said. "The galaxy will remember today, the day humans erased the so-called Alpha from existence." The story closed with a simple truth. Humans, underestimated and oppressed, could rise above any challenge. With courage, creativity, and unity, they had proven that nothing, not even the mightiest force in the galaxy, could break their spirit. Ardent 7 glowed under the starlight, a beacon of hope, strength, and human potential. Humanity had claimed its place in the galaxy, not through fear but through brilliance, heart, and determination. And the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter for it.